All right, man. This is episode number 84 of the Cozy Corner of Cinema. This is being recorded on Monday, November 6th, 2023 at 3:48 p.m. I hope you guys have all had a fantastic week, a fantastic weekend, as well as a fantastic Halloween. Yes, that's right. I forgot to send off a little have a good happy Halloween at the end of the last episode, but the sentiment was there in spirit nonetheless. I hope you guys had plenty of trick-or-treaters. I hope that, you ate plenty of candy, but not too much to make your stomach sick, because I tell you, I'm not a big candy sort of guy. With everyone having little fun-sized candy bars and all that, I had about a lollipop here and there, and that was about enough for me, because I know if I had any more, it's sort of like, I know my stomach's not going to feel too good. But that's all right, man. It's a beautiful time of the year. It was a wee bit chilly that night, I tell you. I mean, if you're going trick or treating at 8 o'clock at night or something, the sun's down. There's a vibrant breeze in the air. It's just sort of like, boy, you want to be out there for too long, man. You kind of want to get there when it's dusk, straight into the end of the night and sort of get out of there. But yeah, it was pretty low key that night, man. Just ended up pretty much just catching up on some films. I got some writing done the past couple of days or so that's been fantastic. It's just been truly just what I'm reading back has been really confidently written, man. It's just been coming out so fantastically. So I hope you guys are taking the opportunity to kind of use your time in the way that you see fit, pursuing your creative endeavors, making your hopes and dreams come true, because no one else can do it for you, so you might as well do it yourself. You want to learn another language, here's me not silencing my phone, it happens every episode. You want to learn another language, you want to write the great American novel, you want to, write screenplays and stuff, well, you got to go ahead and do it, man, because no one's going to do it for you. And, yeah, man, it's November 6th, as I said before, so it's the start of the Criterion sale happening at Barnes & Noble. And it's just weird. I don't know why they didn't start it on that Friday. They usually do the first weekend, but it's all good, man. I opened up the website this morning, saw they were having it, placed a couple titles to order to pick up in store, and it all went smoothly, man. I tell you, 'cause I'm not gonna be walking around in the store, browsing and all that. That's just a total waste of time. I have no interest in just going to places to browse. I'm trying to get in and out and try to get back to where I need to as soon as I can. So I did pick up a couple titles for the buy online, pick up in store, and I'll get some more this month. There's just a couple I wanted to get at the beginning of it. So I ended up grabbing both of the new Janus Contemporaries titles, which is EO from Jerzy Skolimowski and The Innocent from Louis Garrel. I've talked about both these films many, many a time on the show. And these are a little bit cheaper than Criterion's, which is cool. They're in the same kind of case and all that, but they have their, the same like Blu Ray case size, same kind of clear plastic and all that. I will say, though, on both these releases, I think part of the reason why they're probably a little bit cheaper is because there's not as many features on here. That was probably my only real disappointment with both these releases so far, is that I'm looking on the back of, they put a sticker, like a security sticker on the plastic, so I can't totally read it, but on the back of the EO Blu-ray, it says it's like covering right there, a new conversation with director Jerzy Skolimowski and writer-producer Eva Piakowska, I think, is covering up the name, blah, blah, blah. New introduction to 6 Sardinian donkeys, basically a bonus feature about the donkeys that are playing it, and playing EO. And on the Innocent Blu-ray, there's even less, which is Meet the Filmmaker. Again, the sticker's covering it, so I'm trying to read through it. Meet the Filmmaker's interview with director Louis Garrel and trailer. So I'm really disappointed there's no commentaries in either one of these. And I understand that these are just Janus Contemporaries, and it's great to have physical releases of these regardless, but it is a little disappointing. But either way, I'm just so happy to own both these films, man. I've talked about before, EO and The Innocent. These are just two of my favorite films in the past couple of years. I think that they're just both absolutely brilliant, man. And perfect opportunity now with EO getting a Blu-ray here in the States, because they got a BFI release overseas, to watch Robert Bresson's classic Ooh Hazard Balthazar. I always say Ow, but it's A-U. I believe it said Ooh, so Ooh Hazard Balthazar. It's my French isn't the best, so bear with me. But I also picked up the Bo Widerberg's new Swedish cinema collection. This comes with 4 of his films: Elvira Madigan, The Baby's Carriage, Raven's End, and Adeline 31. And the only one of these films I'd been familiar with previously was Elvira Madigan. But these other films I am not familiar with. I really love when Criterion do these director kind of highlight sets. If you can buy a collection of a director's certain work, that's, a standout. Like when I bought that Whit Stillman box set many a year ago. I wasn't familiar with his work, and because of just blind buying that box set, Metropolitan and Barcelona became two of my favorite films. Period. I think those are both two really great films. I love both those. And Last Days Disco is very good as well. I don't think it's quite as good as either one of those, but still very good in its own right. And I still got to see his film Damsels in Distress. That was like his return film. But I did see. I think it's called Love and Friendship, the one with Kate Beckinsale from like 2013, I think. I think it's called Love and Friendship, I don't remember. But yeah, I like that I like these new kind of cases that they've been doing with some of their titles, with some of their collections. Like they had like the Michael Haneke collection or Haneke collection, and they have like a thicker kind of Blu-ray case of them. Because when it comes to like the actual box sets themselves, it could be really hit or miss. I think like the Bergman set is great, it's fantastic, but then the Fellini set is kind of iffy in terms of packaging, and then I think the Agnes Varda and the Godzilla sets are terrible. And I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything like that. It's great to have those films, but the glue on those is so cheap that they just fall apart, man. It's just not good. But with that Agnes Varda set, at least you're getting like a nice big book out of it. But I think the Godzilla set is very egregious, and it's just not convenient to store. There was a guy on eBay. Well, I don't know if he still is up or not, but he was selling these kind of custom cases, the thicker kind of plastic cases, so with an insert that you could just put all the discs into two of them. And I don't have the Wong Kar-wai set yet. X1 unless it's never picked up. But I think that's the same sort of deal. Not like the Godzilla set, but I think I've seen a little bit of it and not being crazy with packaging. But either way, I mean, you got a whole month to get whatever you want, 50% off. I already have some titles pre-ordered that are coming out this month that will be for the half off. So I have the 4K of Mean Streets, is that a 4K Mean Streets? I don't remember if it is or not. God, I always blank on what is in. Okay, it is getting a 4K. My bad. Along with the Last Picture Show I've pre-ordered, and then La Collectionnaire from Claude Chabrol. I think I messed with that title, but you get what I'm saying. I got those all pre-ordered, so it'll match the prices on there. So it's great, man. Go online, or if you go to the store, look up whatever titles you want. There's many, many, many people out there talking about good films on Criterion. It's just great, man. And plus, I believe Arrow is having their sale this month as well, which is fantastic. I always love their sales when it's US and UK because it gives me the opportunity to catch up on the second run Blu Rays they put out because I don't buy as many in the States. And because last time they had that sale, or last time I participated in the sale, I should say, I think I bought like 20 second run titles. It was pretty expensive, but I got a lot of what I was looking for. And it was funny because recently I saw that Goodbye Dragon Inn is getting a Blu-ray from Kino next month, and I had to question. I was like, did I pick that up from second run? And I looked, and I didn't get it for whatever reason in that run. At that point, this is a while ago. That Kino hadn't been announced yet. So I mean, I'll look at that at some point either way, either the Kino or the second run. I'm just happy it's getting a Blu-ray. Over in the States as well. It's a really brilliant film. I had the opportunity to see it theatrically last year, and it was just such a mesmerizing, just brilliant film. I'll talk about it more on the December Blu-rays episode next month. Which, by the way, speaking of episodes, I did see that my top 10 favorite films of 1993 has received quite an influx of views. I don't know if it's just getting recommended to a lot of people or what. But I'm looking at it here now, and I have 113 views on it. So anybody clicking on that video, listening to it, whether you listen to 5 seconds or 5 minutes or even the whole thing, just thank you for taking the time to even click on it. It means a lot to me because I love doing those list videos. I think they're just so much fun to do. It lets me discover so many great films. It lets me see films that I had been putting off for a while that I have to force to watch a lot of the big titles. So that's great. Because I always love thinking back on a lot of the real kind of discoveries of the list. 'Cause, I mean, I'm like looking at the list here, and there's just certain films The Cement Garden was my number 10 until the last second, until I changed it out of The Perfect World. But The Cement Garden could have easily been number 10. I thought that was such a great film. But discovering films like I think 6 Degrees of Separation was just a total surprise. I Am a Promise, The Children of Stanton Elementary School, which was difficult to see. I was able to actually rent that from a library. I had to take it from another library that didn't even have a case. It was just a disc because that was an HBO documentary, which I wasn't even aware of. But that was just really, really solid. The Music of Chance, Far Away So Close, the sequel to Wings of Desire, Raining Stones from Ken Loach, one of my favorite filmmakers, which I never even really talked about. Sorry We Missed You, his film from 2018. There's I watched for that list video, but Sorry We Missed You was so good. That's one of just his strongest films in my opinion. But overall, just great stuff nonetheless. I really didn't watch a whole lot of like not so great stuff. I mean, I watched some titles I'm not as big on, but overall, I would say, it's comparatively low out of 83 titles that the majority I liked, at least to some extent. And then the top 10, really just some exceptional films that were on there. And I had a good variety of films, too, I like that I had there. It was dramas and action films and western, and it's just great. I really like seeing kind of variety like that. It kind of attunes to my taste in film, which is very eclectic, very all over the place. I like to watch pretty much everything, so it's great. Yeah, man, good stuff. The other night, I did watch the new Tom Zimney documentary, Sly, which is now streaming on Netflix. That came out on Friday, and I watched that, and the documentary itself, it was pretty good. It was a little too short. It was just, I think, only about an hour and a half, an hour 40, but they're trying to cram so much information into that short amount of time. But ultimately, what you gain from watching something like that is sort of the persistence to pursue your own dreams. I mean, you look at a situation like this where Sylvester Stallone pretty much had everything going up against him. He's like, writing scripts. He's trying to get cast and stuff. It's not working out. And then eventually he ends up, just against all odds, putting himself in this film of his and ends up winning Best Picture and becomes a huge thing, launches his career. So ultimately, I think the documentary is worth watching solely for that kind of, that kick in the gut that you might need if you're trying to write your screenplay or trying to, direct your film or make your music album or make your painting, whatever it is. Sometimes you just need a little bit boost to be like, oh, that's right, that's why I'm doing this, because no one else is going to do it for me. I mean, geez, man, you can talk about all these great filmmakers and, great artists and musicians and all that, and they got up and they did it, and now they reap the benefits, they reap the rewards, and, everybody has different backgrounds, different stories, different advantages and disadvantages, but it's all about if you're willing to rise to the challenge or not, and it's all up to you, man. It's all in the eye of the beholder. But it was funny because last night I did watch the film Blue Nude from 1978, which is an Italian film and takes place in New York. And they prominently feature Rocky a lot in that film. There's, the marquees that Rocky is showing, and the main character in that film has like a Rocky poster next to a poster of Serpico. He's like trying to be kind of like a macho sort of guy. Ends up like, I won't, give the whole thing away. It was an interesting film. I had to watch it online because I don't think it's a very common film to come across. It's not streaming anywhere. I had to watch it just like on some website. But overall, I would say it's recommended. Nonetheless, it's just something of a curiosity piece, man. Sort of just looking at New York at that time. I'm sure there's many films that, they go out in the streets and they just end up just shooting on the streets. You get to see the posters at the time and the marquees and, all the shops and all that. There's not enough, I will say there's not enough films where characters actually go into the cinema, which I've noticed. That's why I think I like that film Variety so much, about the girl who was working at the adult theater and sort of, it's not about the adult theater, it's about kind of her at a point in her life and this guy that she meets and all that. First role of Luis Guzman, by the way, which I got recommended a video that was him in the Criterion Closet, so that's very cool. Luis Guzman's a very good actor. He's got a lot of range that I think he's kind of known for being a primarily comedic actor, but he's very good in that film. Variety as well, I would recommend. But yeah, I love all that stuff. I love old cinemas. I just love cinemas in general, man. If I'm passing through a town or something and I drive by a cinema, even if it's like a chain cinema or if it's a local cinema, that's even better. But I like to go out and take pictures and stuff, and if I'm able to, walk inside and see the concessions and see what it all looks like that's set up. I've talked about before cinematreasures.com. I think it's .org actually, one of the two. I don't want to mess that up. Cinematreasures.org is just, you can spend hours and hours on the website looking at all the vintage photos and all the contemporary photos, man. It's just so fantastic to look at all that. It's just great, man. But either way, yeah, so, what was I going to say before? I forgot what I was going to say. So I went to the cinema, man, and I was looking forward to Sofia Coppola's new film, Priscilla, about the relationship between Priscilla Presley and Elvis Presley. We just got the Austin Butler Baz Luhrmann Elvis film that came out last year, which was enjoyable, a good kind of jukebox musical, not great by any means, but enjoyable enough. As an Elvis fan, it was great to hear these songs in a loud theater. Austin Butler was fantastic in the film. It's just got a great set design. It's just great, energy and stuff. And Priscilla was taking kind of an opposite approach. I mean, opposite in the literal that following Priscilla Presley, and she's living on this. She's stationed in. I forgot where she was originally stationed. Yeah, stationed. But anyways, the guy is like, hey, you like Elvis? She's like, of course, everybody does. And he's like, well, you could meet Elvis. She's like, oh my God, I gotta go meet Elvis. And she comes kind of comes from a strict upbringing, but eventually ends up, seeing Elvis, played by, and I gotta get these actors' names right, Kaylee Spaney, who plays Priscilla, and Jacob Elordi, I apologize, I don't know how to say his name. He plays Elvis. And I got to give them both credit. They're both very good in the film. Jacob Elordi, man, I thought was actually very exceptional. Now, when I'm initially watching the film, I got to be honest. I'm like, this man does not look like Elvis, and that's fine. It doesn't. I don't need an actor to look exactly like him. But I'm just like, my God, he doesn't look anything like him. But he sounds a lot like him, and I'm like, damn, man, he I don't know what he did, but he got that voice down to a T. And there are certain shots where it's lit in shadow in a way, where there's like one part early on that I like a lot when Priscilla's kind of first meeting him, and he's like there's like part of a shadow on his face, and I'm like, damn, that's a good shot right there. It looks like him, but then it's not important to the film. Ultimately, I think that the film itself, it has its issues. I will say I think that it's a little repetitive. For a movie that's 2 hours, when it was over, it felt awkwardly abrupt. It was like there was a tracking shot at the end, and I'm like, they're gonna really end it here? I feel like this is a weird place to end it. But then they do, and but yeah, it is a good film though. I didn't love it or anything like that, but I will say it's a good companion film to Elvis, where Elvis is far more of the spectacle, and this was kind of more of what I was kind of hoping for that film. There's actual nuance to these people, to these characters. They actually make Priscilla and Elvis real people, real flawed people. I mean, really more so Elvis, where they're showing his flaws, but they're not. I don't think completely casting him in a bad light. I don't think at all, really. I mean, he has his issues. He lashes out. He can be very selfish. He can be very mean. But you do get a real good sense of their relationship. Early on when Elvis is talking about how he kind of misses back home and how Priscilla's kind of the one close link that he really has, and sort of, he has what the father, whose name I don't remember, what the hell's his name? Vernon, played by Tim Post. He's saying, this guy can have anybody he wants. Why does he want my daughter, And I don't know why I said that like JFK, but it's good. I think it is definitely worth watching. This is what I was saying with Killers of the Flower Moon. We're at a great start. We're at the 2023 Oscar season. I won't be surprised if both of these actors get nominated for acting. That's kind of a redundant statement, but I really like. I mean, the costume design, especially in this, I think is brilliant. I just absolutely love vintage women's fashion, like the dresses from the 1950s, the blouses, the scarves, the high heels, man. I follow just so many Instagram pages that are all just vintage women's fashion, man. I love that. And watching this film is just a total treat, seeing all the different dresses that Priscilla wore, as well as like the different costumes, the different suits that Elvis wore, and it's oh my gosh, it's so beautiful, man. And the set design is fantastic. I mean, it's sort of like I don't know what exactly Graceland exactly looks like. But I mean, hey, for the film, I think it works pretty well. I read something where the Graceland estate was not too happy about the film, and it doesn't portray them in the best light. They're kind of very restrictive on Priscilla, saying she can only do this or that, and she can't be outside a certain time. So I understand why they would be upset with the film, because it doesn't cast them in the best light. But ultimately, I think with a film like this is that just because you're showing a person's flaws, I should say, because these are real people, detrimental flaws, they're still people with actual nuance, man. The idea that they're trying to paint Elvis as some sort of like villain, I just don't see that at all, man. There are times where you're like, man, what a jerk, but I do get I get a sense of a real flawed person with that. I mean, it's somebody who was thrust into the spotlight, who's had everything kind of handed to him, and has no one really ever said no to him, besides, Colonel Tom Parker. And I just think there's more nuance than I think is being credited here. This is based off Priscilla's book, Elvis and Me, or Elvis and I don't remember what it is. And I'd be interested to kind of get more in depth with the book. I think this is a very fair, very enjoyable film. I will say that even though it did end a little bit abruptly, it was never boring, man. It was never. It constantly kept my attention, and by the time we got to the third act, I was like, "Oh yeah, I have been sitting here in the cinema for a while." So either way, man, I think this is gonna get some good Oscar talk. I think Sofia Coppola could even get a Best Director nomination, which would be fantastic. She's just such a great filmmaker, and also the soundtrack too was great. There were certain cues from the score that are really great. I don't know, I don't remember the exact song or anything like that, but there's one part where they're talking about her going to America to see Elvis, and they have like the Pan Am ticket and all that, and that piece of music right there, which I think may have been in the trailer, is so good. The music was done by this band I like a lot, Phoenix, because Sofia Coppola is married to the singer of the band, I believe. I think they've been married for a while, and it's Phoenix and someone else did the music, and it all works together really well. It's sort of like, I don't have a problem with it being not from the time, but I think in the case of Elvis, the film, it was a little bit much. It was kind of like, I never saw The Great Gatsby that Baz Luhrmann did, but I remember seeing some criticism that a lot of except film that takes place in the 20s, and they're playing like rap music and stuff. And I mean, I think it can work in context, but importantly, I think context is everything. I think in something like Django Unchained, when Tarantino is using probably more contemporary music, it works really well because he has a really good ear for that sort of thing, and especially in something like The Hateful Eight, where there's one part they're playing "Now You're All Alone" by David Hess from Last House on the Left, a song for that film, and yeah, that's from the 70s, but it works so well in this one setting of a character kind of going around the corner, creeping on somebody else. It's very, very well done. They're just those films that you just sense that they just knew what they were doing with the soundtrack, whether it be a score or just song placement. And like somebody like Christopher Nolan does that so well, where Hans Zimmer's his longtime collaborator, but then on something like Tenet and Oppenheimer, which I think were two different composers. I'm not actually sure about that. But all of his films, I think, have really great soundtracks. Like, I love that soundtrack to Tenet. The kind of, it was like an experimental sort of score, this like tapping sort of noise. And then in Oppenheimer, this big kind of symphonic score. It all sounds beautiful, man. It's sort of like, there's a great section in that, in the 2001 book that I read about the making of 2001, where Kubrick talked about his frustration with some of the some of the initial music choices of the film, and a lot of that got changed, and a lot of classic sort of classical sort of orchestral music we now associate with 2001. And actually, I listened to the commentary as well from the mid 2000s with Keir Dullea and the other actor whose name I want to make sure I credit, because they both have an interesting conversation back and forth. Gary Lockwood, that's right. And I think they believe they talked about the score at one point, having it being synonymous with the classical kind of music. It's all just something you want to keep an eye out for, because even there are films that I'm not even a big fan of that I think the soundtrack is great. It's ultimately, if you can separate yourself from that sort of thing, it's great. Because all that matters is that, well, how can you take this score and use it maybe in a different context, or use it in something else entirely, It's all dependent on you. There are people who are just really good at that sort of stuff, people who have just, like, trained their whole lives in, like, music theory and, music placement and all that. Or even something like in Drive, when Nicholas Winding Refn at one point uses "Oh My Love," which is from Goodbye Uncle Tom. And I think people maybe even associate that song now with Drive, but that song was from Goodbye Uncle Tom. Posteri, what the hell's their names? I always mess up their names, or I always forget their names, because it's two filmmakers who did Mondo Cane, Africa Audio, let me see here, Giulietero Jacopetti, and Franco Prosperi, or Giulietero, yeah, sure, why not? When that comes to 4K, man, that'd be really cool if they included the Godfathers of Mondo documentary that was in that box set. That has some great interviews with them, talking about sort of the history of Mondo films, or really them doing it, less about the history of the Mondo films themselves. It's like, from Mondo Cane up to, I think Goodbye Uncle Tom was their last. One of them would do Wild Beasts, which isn't a Mondo film. It's a animal attack film about a bunch of animals who get exposed to PCP and start running through the city. That's a really, really fun film. the Severin films of a Blu-ray out of it, and Sean Baker put a poster of that in Red Rocket. One of the characters, Strawberry, has a poster in her room, and that's also great to hear, man. Sean Baker's got a new film coming out next year. I knew he had been talking about his film he'd been working on a little while ago, and I think it's called Aniora, or something like that. But either way, it's coming out next year and Neon are distributing it, so you know it's gonna get a good theatrical release, and that's just fantastic, man. It's just great to see these like new filmmakers, man. Who people talk about like, oh, why is this person successful? Why come they get to... It's like, brother, because they put in the hours and the work. And yeah, just because you put in the hours and the work doesn't guarantee success, but you don't know that it doesn't as well, man. It's sort of like, I look at filmmakers like Sean Baker and S. Craig Zahler and Jeremy Saulnier. You've been doing this for a while, man. I know S. Craig Zahler has been doing a lot of different stuff. I'd recommend listening to any of his interviews. Talk about a guy who I would just love to just have a conversation with, man. He's just such an interesting guy, so down to earth, does so many different things, does films, does graphic novels, I think he does like metal music and stuff. He just seems like such a cool guy, and I really hope we can get another film from him, because Bone Tomahawk is great. Brawl Cell Block 99 is so great, and Dragged Across Concrete is really good too. I really actually want to watch that again. I've only ever seen that once. I remember really liking it. It's a film that I needed to sit with me, because it's a long film. I mean, it's a little under 3 hours, and initially when it was over, I didn't totally know what to feel about it. But then as time went on, I was like, no, I really like that. I really like that film. I think Vince Vaughn and Mel Gibson in the film they work just so well together. Just those scenes early on, where they're staking out in the car, just eating sandwiches and drinking cola. It's just fantastic. So hopefully we can get another film from him at some point. But if not, hey, we have 3 solid films as is. So there I am dropping things and chairs squeaking. Oh, man, but yeah, there's so much to do. Now that the 1993 stuff is over, there's just so much to get back to. There's just so many films I got to catch up on. I mean, I've been buying so many films lately. It's been wild. I've been talking about these ones that I bought today, but I was buying some of the stuff from Vinegar Syndrome, their OCN titles, because I have all, I'm already subscribers, so you get all those anyways. But, like, I've just been ordering a bunch of their partner label titles. Like, in the last batch, I ordered Benny's Bathtub from Death Crocodile, The Christmas Martian from Canadian International Pictures, The Killing of Bobby Green from Saturn's Core, and Shredder Orpheus from AGFA. Not seen any of these. Benny's Bathtub looks like a fun kind of animated, like weird kind of film. Christmas Martian just looks bizarre. It looks like one of those bizarre kind of Canadian films, like The Peanut Butter Solution, which is just such a strange film, but it's so engaging. It's like that, or it's more adult, but something like The Pit, where you just have you're just watching. It's just bizarre elements, man. It's just but it's so enjoyable. It makes it so unique. And then last month I bought titles that I actually already have. I didn't buy East End Hustle, but I kind of wish I did. Well, along with Cat City, but maybe I can come back to those. But I bought The War Is Over from Alain Resnais, which I didn't even know that was his film. I was looking at it, and I'm like, oh, Alain Resnais directed this. I'm on board, man. Directed 2 of my favorites last year, Miriam Bad and Hiroshima Mon Amour, so of course I have to buy everything that he releases, or that comes out of his films. And then I bought that... Oh, I also bought the Michael Finley trilogy, the Trilogy of Lust, which I'm very curious about. I'm sorry, not Trilogy of Lust, the Flesh trilogy, my bad. But I also bought from AGFA as well. I just had it here. Where is it? Oh yeah, the Terminal Degeneration, the films of John Morisugu. That comes with about 5 or 6 films. I had known about Modfuck Explosion for a while. I'd never seen it, but oh jeez, I'm sorry, guys. Well, it's almost over anyway, so it won't be too long. But anyways, God, I'm choking. I don't want to stop it now, but I'm gonna end it here, guys. So, have a fantastic rest of your week. It's November. Get into the winter mentality, man. It's going to be soon. It's going to be here before you know it, man. So much to get done. Make sure you're working on your arts. Make sure you're working on your writing, on your directing, on your painting, on your music, on whatever it is, man. Make sure you're putting in full force whatever time you have to that, because next thing you know, you're going to wake up one day and be like, my gosh, I wish I used that time wisely. Well, you're in luck, because you can use it. Yeah, you can use that time wisely right now. All right, thank you guys so much for listening. I'll be back next week. All the best.